Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 6 things Americans are better at than British people. And in the thumbnail it was showing sport. So I mean, also this is wild to me. I don't know if this is a glitch. This is also irrelevant. He's got 0 dislikes and 6 point. Okay, I'm just going to look at this quickly. This is a rare occurrence on YouTube that you have 0 dislikes. I don't know why I've reset it now because my internet's bugging out. Oh, 53, okay. Doesn't matter. Forget what I was saying. But yeah, in the thumbnail, he was holding like sport stuff, like weights. There we go, not sport stuff. It was actual weights, dumbbells, should I say? And I mean, I assume it's going to go into like sport-related stuff and other stuff too. I'll be the judge of that, but no, seriously, I'm not actually that fussed by it. But it's going to be interesting to see what he sort of views that the US are better at. Because I mean, if you look at something like American football, then of course, or baseball, then of course, basketball, of course, ice hockey, of course. I'm just saying sports right now. Football or soccer, I would say not, but although the females definitely are. Rugby, again, it's sort of similar to American football, but we're somewhat good at rugby, so I'd say no. You know what, I'd find it really fascinating to just see rugby players and American football players just playing against each other. It's quite a weird thing to say because I don't know what rules they would have in between rules. That'd be really wild. You know, that's my idea. Rugby players versus NFL players. We need that. We need that right now. But what am I saying? But we're going to jump into this. Hopefully going to enjoy. And this doesn't offend you too much if you're British. But I'm assuming most of you aren't. Most of you are from the US. So yeah, that's not going to be the case. But yeah, let's jump into this and see what Americans are better at. Oh, this is loud.
I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to things that we Americans do better than us British people. I'm a dual
It just refers to both.
citizen, so that
Love
sentence totally makes sense. And on the back of all of those videos that I've been doing recently that are heavy on research, I thought that this video should just be my observations. In other words, now that I've lived in America for 15 years, what are some of the things that people here intuitively get that we don't perhaps in Britain? Apart from, you know, kicking arse. And I realise that this video might seem controversial, but it's important that it is so that people click on it. But I think, as always, it's going to be lighthearted enough that by the end of this video, we're going to all come together in a big group hug. Minus Uncle Toby. And if you'd like to share in
Poor
that
Uncle
group
Toby,
hug
man,
and had a chance to subscribe to this channel, do that now. And before we dive into this list, here's a quick word about today's sponsor. In the past year, I've taken to learning a new language, and this doesn't just end at the correct pronunciation of quesadilla. No, I want to learn how to order one in Spanish. And that's why I'm using Babbel. Babbel is one of the top language learning apps in the world. Inglaterra. Yeah, wow. For practical purposes, I'm learning Latin American Spanish, but my interest in the language began as a teenager in actual Spain, where I'd laugh at my decidedly non-fluent dad's attempt at speaking Castilian Spanish. And who knows, maybe one day I'll become so fluent that I'll uncover all of the memos that Spain and Mexico lost in the pond. And with Babbel, I just feel like I have a better chance of learning them because they use actual teachers to design the lessons. Babbel even offers live classes, 2 of which you can get for free with your subscription. So let me know in the comments which language you've always wanted to learn and why. Click the link in my description to get 60% off your subscription. In the meantime, here are 6 things that Americans do better than British people, in my opinion.
Getting to the point.
Number 1 or number 6.
Oh, I didn't know we were going. I thought we
were
talking about more practical things like sport, but I guess maybe we'll get to that as well. Getting to the point. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I probably beat around the bush somewhat, so that's probably fair.
Getting to the point. What do I mean by that? Well, when I say getting to the point, what I mean is, if you're willing to listen to me for just 60 seconds on this, Americans, that is citizens of the United States.
Mate, get to the point. Do you see what I done there? Come on.
America are much better at cutting out some of the faff that comes with some, but by no means all, British conversations. And right there, you may have noticed I was using some of that faff to make a very serious point. Before I moved here, I would dilly-dally my way through conversations by saying things like, Philip, in addition to speaking like a radio presenter from the 1930s, could I possibly maybe put you to the bother of lending me your brolly? Whereas in America, I've learned not to use an umbrella, but also just to ask, Tara, I'm taking your umbrella. That's a declaration, not a question. In other words, here, especially in transactional conversation, we just use fewer words, get to the point straight away, and nobody seems harmed by any of this. Never be afraid of what the other person thinks of your inquiry or question, because so long as you're communicating effectively and with respect, the chances are the outcome will be fine.
Going to the gym. I mean, maybe more do. But I mean, gyms in the UK, there's quite a lot, and they're always filled to the brim. I'm going in about 30 minutes, and that's usually the right time to go, because around like 12:30, 1 o'clock, it's not too bad, and then around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, when people finish school or work, it gets horrible. So I'm always trying to get there before the rush. Unless he means there's stronger people in the US, which, I mean, there probably are. I mean, some of the strongest people actually are from the UK and the US.
Okay, this one is
like, in like World's Strongest Man, but I guess he's just talking about gym in general. I don't know what, though.
Based on pretty unscientific observation on my part. Essentially, this comes down to I see more people with massive muscles here than I do in Britain. And don't get me wrong, most Americans, just like most British people, don't actually go to a gym. It's just that there does seem to be a higher percentage of Americans that do have a gym membership compared to in Britain, and this one is backed by science.
Oh, well, there we go.
Or general data, because America famously has a gym culture. And how do I know this? Because I was dragged into it.
One thing I definitely will say is gym culture in schools, like in the US, different level, or like university. I feel like it's a different level. Like, you'll have kids that are 14, 15 that have been smashing out the gym for years. I didn't touch the gym until I was late 15, and then you're told not to go to the gym until you're 16 because you're going to stunt your growth and all this stuff. So I was genuinely just like not interested in going. I never thought about going to the gym until I started going, because one of my friends in school was starting to get, you could like notice he was going to the gym, and I was like, we're all these skinny rats, and then you got this one guy who's the same age as us who's just going to the gym a little bit and he's getting massive. Now, I didn't get big when I was younger, so I mean, it wasn't one of those things that actually worked out. But in the US, I feel like the culture for sure. Like, you'll have 16-year-olds that are like built like fucking just full on athletes at the age of 16, and it's just like a shortcut to get there, because then you've got to work that, like, you've got to do that later on in your life in the UK. I don't know, it's one of those weird things that definitely is gym culture from an early age. I think is definitely like in the US culture for sure.
Once. In my first year of living in the United States, I had a gym membership, and the fact that I only used it to kick a football at a wall should not discount from the fact that I had a gym membership. And when I lived in England, my friends would never talk about going to the gym. It's not that we...
I think gym's quite a new thing, though. I mean, especially in the UK. 20 years ago, it was obviously a thing to a degree, but the last 5-10 years... I think gyms have gone crazy in the UK.
We weren't athletic or anything like that. It's just that we had other ways of achieving fitness, you know, through walking or swimming or, heaven forbid, running. Gym just wasn't a big part of the conversation. But in America, it's baked into many things. When I had a job in downtown Chicago, one of the perks of working there is that you got 10% off at, say, LA Fitness. And it wasn't that I was working for the Chicago Bears. This was a consulting company. And it's quite common for people to receive such perks. My wife, who was a teacher, got the same. And so because of this, I think it's probably less accurate to say that Americans are better at going to the gym than it is to say gymnasiums and gymnasium culture are advertised to them more. And Uncle Toby, if you want to fight about this, just remember that I'm American now and I have 2.5-inch pythons.
Celebrating success. Okay.
On the whole, Americans are very, very good at celebrating the success of other people. There are exceptions to this, like my wife's cousin Chad, who believes that I deserve none of this. But on the whole, Americans are just always so quick to congratulate me on becoming and remaining a YouTube sensation. In Britain, depending on the person, it might go like this. All right, mate, how's that YouTube channel of yours going? Yeah, no, it's going great. I don't know if you're familiar with subscriber count, but 653,000 subscribers. All right, yeah. Probably all bots, isn't it? Bots? My mum is not a bot. I'm just having banter, lad. I always get confused. And don't get me wrong, I actually value both approaches. When I'm in need of some sort of mental pick-me-up, it is nice to post a tweet saying something like, ooh, I've been watched 67 million times this year, or I got groceries today. Because Americans will always whip out that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio raising a glass. On the other hand, when a British person responds with, hey, oh, it's gone to his head again, it brings me back down to earth. It reminds me that instead of hiring domestic staff, I should really just muck in and fix both hot tubs myself.
Hosting family.
No, it's that
probably
time
true.
again.
I mean, I don't really see my family for special occasions until Christmas. I'll see my mum and that's probably it. I mean, that's not the norm. I'm just not very close to my family like that. I mean, my mum I'm a lot closer with, but Christmas we'll see each other. Like, we don't have things like Thanksgiving in the UK. Like, we don't have those sort of celebrations in between. Like Easter, nothing. Halloween, nothing. Although I don't think you really do. Do you have meals or like celebrations for that in the US, other than like going out getting drunk or taking your kids to go trick or treating? Oh, there's a siren. I'm trying to think of other days. There's not. There's no days that we do anything other than Christmas.
Isn't it, when both countries save all of their best holidays until the last 60 days of the year? Chief among these in the United States is Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. And in America, this could mean that I'm about to see most of my wife's extended family twice within 30 days. And this can be great, you know, unless my wife's cousin Chad brought the tequila again. What I'm saying is, Americans are better at inviting massive amounts of people. In Britain, pound for pound, the houses are smaller, so we can't fit 57 people in without making the local news. But also, most of us just wouldn't want that many weird uncles in the same room. So we keep it to a small number, and that way there are more sausage rolls for everyone, unless I get to them first. And this, of course, is a big generalisation. There will be some British family that host lots of people, and there'll be some American families that host no one. But on the whole, when it comes to holiday house parties, Americans really go to town from inside a house.
Not littering. What? I think this is probably just going to be the same. People don't litter in the UK. I mean, people do, but it's not like a common thing. Like, there's bins everywhere. There's all these different things to try and help avoid it.
Like the excesses of American holidays, there is one surprising thing that I've discovered Americans do better than the British, and it is this. We, are better at not littering. I say that's weird because firstly, you do occasionally see litter just blowing around in the American breeze. But it is to a notably lesser degree than I experienced in Britain. Like, even in the woods near to my house where I grew up, you'll occasionally see a polo mint wrapper or a Snickers bar, or things I can't mention because I don't want to get demonetized.
That's true. When I was young, I remember my woods, we used to play a game called Manhunt. Basically, one of you's the catcher, and you have to try and catch everyone, and would hide in the woods. And there was definitely needles there, and then they got a lot better. So that's true, but I think you probably find that in some woodlands or parks in the US. Probably not. But now, I mean, in terms of littering, I don't really think I think it would be the same, to be honest. I think in terms of the cultures, it would be very similar.
Again. In places in America that would be considered the equivalent of the towns and cities that I lived in Britain, there's just notably less of it. This was my experience on the West Coast and on the East Coast and some places in between.
Maybe just my city. Speaking Spanish?
And we end
true.
Sort of where we started. Americans are better than British people at speaking Spanish.
I mean, you've definitely got a lot of, like, the culture there in terms of there's a lot of, like, Latinos and stuff. So that makes sense.
And in many ways, this assertion is similar to the one that I made about going to the gym. By no means do all Americans speak Spanish, but around 42 million people speak it as their first language in the United States, and a further 15 million have learned it as a second language. It's also the language that comes up the most when I get into a conversation with an American about what languages did you learn at school? And my first answer would be French.
Mine was Spanish and then it was French. And I didn't master either of them.
And their first answer almost always would be Spanish. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, of course a lot of people speak Spanish in America. There are millions of Americans who came from Spanish-speaking countries or whose ancestors did the same. And that makes total sense, but I think it took living here to realise just how big of a role the Spanish language plays in American society. But it goes deep.
I remember a song we had, Hola, hola, buenos dias. What does hasta luego mean? There's a song. And it's just still stuck in my head from like year 2 when I was like 7 years old. We would like sing it in class. Hola, hola, buenos dias. Hasta luego. What does hasta luego mean? Am I even saying it right?
Than this, because something that I've noticed after living extensively in both countries, Americans are just generally better at pronouncing Spanish words.
Probably case in point what I've just done there. probably butchered it.
A fine example of this would be the Spanish dish paella. And notice how I
Paella?
said it there, because that's not how I used to pronounce it when I lived in Britain. Me and most people I knew pronounced it paella. And the first time that I used this pronunciation on an American, it gave me the sort of look that you give to somebody who's weeing in a ditch. And it was at that point that I realised that two L's next to each other in Spanish mean a completely different thing to what they do in Welsh.
Conclusion.
If I've learned anything from this video, it's that I'm not going to read the comments. But I've also developed a newfound appreciation for my American cousins and my British siblings. People, and although this list was about things that Americans do better than British people, I am leaving this open to a sequel. That being...
Sequel. Come on. Come on. Let's see what we can do better. Now I've got to see. How the hell... I'm going to spell it wrong, but I need to see what it means. Astalueg. It's probably one word, isn't it? God, no, I didn't spell it like that. Luego. Oh, for God's sake. What is going on? Oh my God, this is pissing me off. Why is it on images for starters? Is it hasta luego? Oh my God, I just don't know. Just please tell me in the comments. My internet's bugging out, so I can't do this stuff. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe, peace.